Omega Game Secrets and the Ouroboros Breakout Choice. What are the ultra secrets that the echelon is afraid would screw up a pooch, break down with civilization into panic if they were let out of the old bag? What cannot be allowed to find curry with mainstream public science authorities below level 1? What is the final ontological matrix of hidden truth? What elucidates all the aspects of the true-to-life UFO phantasm in our past, present and future? What are the critical goals of echelon beyond information suppression and technological catch-up? What are the hyper-intelligence focal points for the future? The sun, our sun, is dying, and too soon. This was caused by regional dimensional vortex shutdown some 90,000 years ago. Solar instability can cause much life on Earth to be unsustainable in 40 years. Ancient astrotheology calendars all end around now. There are also dangerous interplanetary bodies, with civilization-threatening capability due to cause more serious damage to Earth in another 150 years. One way or the other, we are slated to leave Earth, sooner or later, or else. This is a prevailing secret truth. Those in control would rather save themselves and a few elite than worry about the whole of mankind, despite the presence of a few well-meaning but deluded true human patriots amongst the bunch. Remember when Apollo 13 said, "Houston, we have a problem." This is a case where the only equivalent is God. We, Earth, have a problem. All other human problems dwarf in comparison. But that is still only the surface veneer of things. The cosmic regional hyperdimensional vortices began to open back up in 1994 in the region beyond and in line with the Sirius double star system, correlate ancient Egyptian and Dogon myths. They will be increasingly open again within the next 20 years, and hit first peak resonance, as a wave on Earth within the next 5 to 10 years, probably 2006 or 2007. In the Omega game, the critical choices are fast approaching. Originally, the death sentence to our sun was caused by ancient hyperdimensional vortex closure near Sirius, and unfortunately starved the sun of divine energy and caused it to emit vibrations of death and illness. On the other hand, if closure had not been done, then some horrific ancient evils would have continued unabated. The critical compensating element was the injection from high hyperdimensional sources, spiritual sources of special soul substance of high spirituality into Earth humanity at the time. 90,000 years ago, original Neanderthal humanity was given a remarkable gift. A higher soul substance distributed itself into humanity from beyond the physical universe. It was a compensating action against genetic evils that had already occurred. Incredibly, there was a side effect. Humans were endowed to become spiritual powerhouses with their own individual soul vortexes. The Earth was eventually fully quarantined about 2,000 years ago, after the Emmanuel operation, and evolution largely allowed to take its course, except for meddlers who would get through, from space or from underground. Occasionally, counteracting positive forces would in extreme cases of continuing meddling, have to intervene. Angels and devils are good and badettes, and some devils have good-looking angel duplicates under their covert control, and some angels shapeshift to look like average human beings or even animals. So for the untelepathic, and that is most of us, it's a terrible mess to decode. Plenty of room to get into trouble. The original offending aliens who wanted control of Eden as their own perverse playground to control, manipulate, suppress and rule, were kicked off Earth to a planet in the nearby Sirius and Betelgeuse systems, but a few stayed hidden on Earth underground. This has been known by in the no status quo human powers for thousands of years. The Sirius vortexes have opened up just enough to amplify the capacity of the soul in human beings and commence another major, natural, genetic transformation, apparently encoded and dormant in humanity since the original genetic counter-engineering by positive Surian forces 90,000 years ago. Because of this, the sun's life can be extended if the coming big energy wave goes more positively than time travelers coming back would have us believe it went for them. What we do between today and 2007 is critical to how the wave hits then. Actually, what humanity already did in the last 10 years to evolve has made much of the unpredicted new future tracks even possible and now probable. With the spiritual, hyperdimensional vortex is now partly reopening, with enough human spiritual development, the sun can be stabilized, temporarily, or even completely. The time available for space migration can be cushioned so radical future genetic engineering does not overtake the human race and we do not turn ourselves into hive mind ET that we see today from the future. The need for space migration can be entirely relaxed because the sun can be stabilized for another 4,000 years. We can take centuries getting off planet as a whole, instead of having less than 60 years before human extinction if we don't get away from the sun. The coming wave has already happened negatively, as evidenced by the existence of many time travelers. Future humans, coming from distant futures long after disaster had already happened. They had advanced enough to migrate their souls back to catch a different part of the big wave that is about to happen, still in our future, but almost upon us. The soul migration back from into the past, our present, is to redirect the human, future, spiritual evolution from what futurely ostensibly happened. Therefore the present, real future, is engaged in counterphasing itself into a better outcome. Humanity is hitchhiking back into human genetics and our current time registration to catch a new direction on the coming wave. Cosmic surf's up. The migration back to the present of all the human souls from the future is evolutionarily grounded through reincarnational redirection of these souls eventually into human, ET hybridized bodies. The abduction programs by many aliens represent an alien-human abductee agreement mostly unconscious to the abducted humans, in a joint effort of alliance to effect an dimensional immigration deed. The story often follows the souls or the genes of the abductees are related to the souls or the genes of the aliens, in some distant future looping back. Future humanity screws up bad, and in the mad and seemingly so rational scientific and engineering effort to save the human race, they genetically engineer the human race for space travel, and most fatefully engineer the elimination of considerable emotional neurotransmission capacity. Why? As a panic and depression management measure in the future to save humanity. It is a science and survival debacle that has already happened, and is reflecting back on us now as it tries to find its way anew. Some ARC military components and assets interacting with the aliens and abduction activity are tasked with assisting the effort of the aliens as part of the secret evolutionary trade agreement. Other ARC elements wish only to acquire technology and disbelieve the aliens' claims to be future humans, even though admitting alien intervention in spiritual matters on Earth for thousands of years. These ARC elements are only interested in power and getting into the cosmic power and turf game. Earth is such a magnet for monitoring by different alien civilizations because, and other than the usual explorers, most ET civilizations visiting us have some stake in the experiment, the Divine Garden. They have some small or large genetic and soul substance contribution in the experiment called Earth as a whole, and the agendas drive from this. Many are coming back for genetic retrieval or soul retrieval operations in case the coming massive multipolar quantum resonance wave goes wrong. And in trade, they are contributing evolutionary trim tab adjustment opportunities to humanity by covertly injecting technology and spirituality generally, and effecting direct genetic alterations and belief adjustments specifically with certain abductees. Most hybrids are not sticking around after they are created with the help of the unconsciously agreeing abductees. Most go interstellar, for future humans to time travel back to our present in their own evolutionary repair operation, including both migrating into new genetic complement bodies, the hybrids, and making genetic adjustments in certain human beings, means the coming wave is very special. The coming resonance wave in the next decade is in many ways hyperdimensional and beyond our current ability to comprehend. To some need-to-know ARC elements, this smacks of hyperdimensional invasion, yet to other need-to-know ARC elements it is the chance for apotheosis. The question is it a false or genuine apotheosis? Is it spiritual liberation or entrapment? The spiritual soul substance endowed in human beings makes humanity coveted by certain negative spiritual forces millions of years long extant in the universe, such as certain elements of the people of the snake, earlier, fallen, experimental remnants from Earth history. The reason there are over 75 technologically advanced alien species monitoring Earth, and abductions occurring from aliens from as many as 40 different planets, is Earth is the site of a joint alien long-term biology and spiritual consciousness growth experiment. The joint experiment has had its conflicts between custodial participants. There is more than meets the eye. 90,000 years ago when the regional hyperdimensional energy vortices were shut down, and the definition of human transition from Homo Neanderthal to Cro-Magnon distinction. Now today we are beginning another equally immense genetic and dimensional consciousness evolutionary shift that has been encoded and dormant in our genes for 90,000 years and recently unlocked in all of us by the vortex, and slowly causing metamorphosis of our species. Since some of that special genetic engineering was performed and designed by entirely hyperdimensional sources, all the aliens in the universe are waiting around right now with bated breath, waiting to see what happens. Whatever happens, it has never happened before in the history of this universe. Hence all the attention suddenly now more upon us out here on this lonely rim in the Milky Way. Isn't it great that we can keep all this secret or consigned out in the open to mental illness and human pop culture fantasy? Otherwise, most everybody in the need to know believes these truths about the current human situation in the larger cosmic scope of things would be too much for our little brains to handle, and civilization will fall to the worst kind of hysteria. But if we don't know the truth, do we not also automatically assure our consignment to insanity down the line? Could it be we are being rushed into the space age with alien help, for without it we are doomed? Or could the truth be that the crucible of this oyster earth has produced some very beautiful human pearls, with amazing capacity to care, and to love? Could it be the soul substance we were endowed with is meant to develop new evolutionary factors for the universe? Is the grander plan one of humanity ultimately spreading out amongst the stars, seeding its consciousness and propensity to cause change, something most ultra-stable ET civilizations are rather afraid of, and few are welcoming? Does humanity have the right stuff? Some humans and aliens believe we do not and should be just used and herded as a hyperdimensional power-based commodity. Some humans and aliens believe humanity does have the right stuff to break free of their bonds and survive, but will take a long time getting it right. Do we repeat future bad history currently on schedule, or do we phase tunnel into a new future history? Does the snake eat its tail, where the Omega is game over and starts over as the Alpha once again, or do we graduate to a new level Alpha, beyond the historical pattern loop? The loop is the harvest being plowed under. Can Ouroboros stop eating its tail and move into the next spiral position of evolution? If it happens well and goes positively, the loop will be broken and the new unpredicted, virgin future will will occur. In that future, certain negative power enclaves do not survive, being obsolesced by spiritual evolution and humanity. If it goes negatively, again, the loop will stay locked, and the ancient future will happen again. In that future, certain positive influences will again leave this universe until the pattern is ready to unlock again, in another 90,000 years. However, it appears that this will not happen, and that the positive outcome is probable now. However, from the point of view of the agnostic and atheist and certain religious ARC elements, the critical counterbalancing elements that will occur to assure this positive outcome are related to how the munitions of hyperdimensional symbols, operationally activated, will be used to either psychotronically dampen or amplify the coming immense evolutionary wave into consonant or dissonant form. The question is not just what will help or hurt humanity, the question is what will help or hurt their need-to-know institutions. Many double standards are in process. The hypercryptographics of spiritual energy control and will be decisive battlefield elements in the psychotronic operations theater over the next 10 years. This brings the real military battlefield directly into coordination of religious scale operations. It is now a divine and pseudo-divine battlefield operations theater. If one thinks about it carefully enough, one will notice this would already have caused a new secret unification of the historically separated scientific and religious institutions, as a matter of survival, into one entity in order to manage the threat response. The threat is real. The response is really unreal, and that is how and why ARC works as it does. It is the only responsible thing to do. Everything in the world is at stake, including our souls and our free will to shape individual destiny.